Welcome to Vivid Verses. If our words resonate with you, please subscribe, tap the like, and share your thoughts and your feelings in the comments. Now let's begin. The monitor above bed 4 in the ICU was a GE Carscape B850. I knew the model because I had spent the last 6 hours staring at the back panel while Dr. Aris explained why my father's kidneys were shutting down. It was a cascading failure. The heart wasn't pumping enough blood to the kidneys weren't filtering the blood, the fluid was backing up into the lungs, and the oxygen saturation was dropping, which further weakened the heart. It was a closed loop of deterioration. Aris was a good mechanic. He didn't use soft language. He pointed to the numbers. The ejection fraction is 15%. Michael, he said, tapping the chart on his tablet. Normal is 55 to 70. He is running on fumes. We are maxing out the dobutamine. If we push it higher, we risk an arrhythmia that will kill him instantly. If we don't, the fluid drowns him. Timeline, I asked. Hard to say. If he doesn't diurese, pee out the fluid, by morning, we have to discuss intubation. But frankly, with a heart this weak, once he goes on the vent, he likely doesn't come off. I looked at my father. He was sedated, a plastic mask strapped to his face, his chest heaving with the mechanical effort of breathing. His hands were swollen, the skin translucent and bruised from a dozen force sticks. He looked like a machine that had been run past its warranty, parts wearing out faster than they could be replaced. I need to go home, I said. I need a shower and change. I'll be back in 3 hours. Go, Aris said. Nothing's going to happen fast. This is a slow slide. I walked out of the unit, past the nurse's station where 3 people were debating a lunch order, and into the elevator. The hospital smelled of rubbing alcohol and floor wax. It was 3 a.m. My body felt heavy, a dull ache in the lower back and a buzzing behind the eyes that signaled sleep deprivation. I had been awake for 30 hours. The parking garage was a concrete echo chamber. I found my car, a 4-year-old sedan that needed new brake pads, and got in. The silence inside the vehicle was the first peace I'd had all day. I didn't turn the radio on. I just sat there for a moment, gripping the steering wheel, running the mental spreadsheet of the next 48 hours. Variable 1, Dad. Likelihood of survival, low. Logistics, funeral arrangements, estate settlement, selling his house in Jersey. Variable 2, work. I had 3 projects in the pipeline. I need to email the team, delegate the structural analysis on the bridge project, and burn my remaining PTO. Variable 3, Clara. I paused on the 3rd variable. Clara was a variable I couldn't solve for. In the grand equation of my life, she was an irregularity, a drain on resources. I started the engine. The drive back took 40 minutes. The highway was empty, just me and the long-haul truckers. I stayed in the right lane, set the cruise control to 65, and minimized the cognitive load of driving. I needed to conserve energy. The apartment complex was a mid-range build from the early 2000s. Thin walls, decent facade, terrible insulation. I parked in my assigned spot. The space next to mine was empty. The neighbor, a flight attendant, was gone. I envied him. I walked up the 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was slow and smelled like wet dog. When I reached our door, I paused. I could hear the television. I checked my watch. 3:45 a.m. Why was she awake? I unlocked the door and pushed it open. The wall of heat hit me first. I had told her 3 times that the electric bill was spiking. I had explained the thermodynamics of the apartment, that keeping it at 74 degrees in winter was inefficient and expensive. She had nodded, agreed, and then ignored it. The lights were all on, not just the living room, but the hallway and the kitchen. Claire was on the sofa. She was curled up in a blanket, surrounded by the detritus of her evening. A half-eaten bag of chips, a wine glass with a red stain at the bottom, her iPad, her phone, a scattering of magazines. She looked up when I closed the door. She didn't look worried. She looked annoyed. "You're finally back," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of dissatisfaction. I dropped my keys in the bowl on the entry table. "Yeah, I've been waiting up," she said, muting the TV. It was some reality show where people screamed at each other over dinner. I couldn't sleep. My day was a disaster. I walked past her into the kitchen. I needed water. My mouth felt like it was coated in glue. "I'm sorry you had a bad day," I said, opening the cabinet. "I'm going to grab a shower and head back." "Dad's bad." "How bad?" She asked it casually, the way you ask about traffic. "End stage," I said. "Heart failure. Kidneys failing. It's a matter of time." "That sucks," she said. Then, immediately, without a breath in between, "But listen to this. You know that Trader Joe's on 4th? The one with the terrible parking lot." I stood at the sink, glass in hand. I stared at the water swirling down the drain. "Clara, I really can't right now." "No, you have to hear this," she said, her voice sharpening. She sat up, dropping the blanket. "It's unbelievable. So, I go just to get wine and those peanut butter cups, right? I have 2 items. 2. And I get in the express lane. I drank the water. It was room temperature. I refilled the glass. I calculated the time. If I shower now, I could be asleep by 4:15. Up at 6 o'clock. Back at the hospital by 7 o'clock for the morning rounds. "Michael, are you listening?" I turn around. I'm listening. So, the woman in front of me has a cart. A full cart. In the express lane. And the cashier, this little girl, couldn't be older than 19, is just scanning it all. Not saying a word. I'm standing there, holding my 2 items, waiting. It's rude, right? It's socially unaware. "It's annoying," I said, leaning against the counter. My legs ached. "But people are oblivious." "It's not just oblivious, it's malicious," Clara insisted. She stood up now, pacing the small living room. She was wearing one of my old t-shirts. So when I finally get to the register, I say, in a totally nice voice, by the way, "I guess the 10 items or less sign is just a suggestion today, huh?" Just a little joke to bond with the cashier. And you know what she does? I rub my eyes. "Clara," she rolls her eyes at me. She looks at me like I'm the problem. She says, "Ma'am, I don't make the rules. I just work here." Can you believe that attitude? I felt so small. I come home, expecting my boyfriend to be here so I can vent, and the house is empty. I sat here for 4 hours stewing about it. I looked at her. I really looked at her. She was 28 years old. She worked in marketing for a boutique firm. She had parents who paid her car insurance. She had never seen a dead body. She had never had to decide whether to plug a machine into a family member's throat. I was seeing the gap between us. It wasn't just a crack. It was a canyon. "Clara," I said, keeping my voice low and even. "My father is dying. I just spent 6 hours watching his vitals crash. I haven't slept in 30 hours. I do not have the energy to break down a transaction at a grocery store." She froze. Her face contorted, not into sympathy, but into offense. "Wow," she said. "Okay, I get it." "Get what?" "You're doing that thing again. That superior thing." She crossed her arms. "I'm trying to share my life with you. I'm trying to tell you about my feelings. And you just shut me down." "Oh, my dad is sick, so nothing else matters." You know, other people have problems too, Michael. The logic was perverse. It was a false equivalency of the highest order. I didn't say nothing else matters. I said, I don't have the capacity. "You never have the capacity for me," she shouted. "It's always about work, or your dad, or the car, or the bills. You're always so gloomy. I come home wanting connection, and you're just a wall. You're being incredibly selfish right now. You're not even listening to me." Selfish. The word hung in the air. I analyzed the statement. I paid 60% of the rent. I paid the utilities. I did the grocery shopping because she found it overwhelming. I handled the maintenance on her car. I listened to her complain about her boss, her mother, her friends, and her hair for an average of 45 minutes every evening. And now, when I required a partner, when I needed the base function of a relationship, which is mutual support during a crisis, she was demanding I soothe her because a teenager rolled her eyes. This wasn't a relationship. It was a parasitic infection. Something clicked in my chest. It wasn't anger. Anger is hot. It's volatile. This was cold. This was the feeling of a breaker tripping to save the circuit. I set the glass down on the granite counter. Clink. I walked out of the kitchen and into the living room. I didn't sit. I stood in the center of the rug, feet shoulder-width apart. I established a physical presence that demanded acknowledgement. Clara, stop. She blinked. She wasn't used to me interrupting. I was the listener. I was the sponge. Don't you dare tell me to stop, she snapped, pointing a finger. I am expressing my emotions. You don't get to police how I feel. I am not policing your feelings, I said. My voice was different. It was the voice I used on job sites when a contractor was trying to cut corners on safety. It was the voice of absolute, non-negotiable fact. I am prioritizing reality. Reality? The reality is you're being a jerk. The reality, I said, stepping forward, is that my father is in the ICU. His heart is failing. I am watching a man disintegrate. I do not have the capacity to discuss your interaction with a cashier. It is trivial. It is irrelevant. Her mouth dropped open. Did you just call my feelings trivial? I called the situation trivial. Because it is. I looked her in the eye. I need a partner right now. I need someone who can look at the situation, see that I am at my limit, and offer support. Or, at the very least, offer peace. I do not need a dependent. I do not need a child. A child, her voice went high, shrill. I am your girlfriend. Then act like it. I didn't raise my voice. I lowered it. If you cannot offer support, silence is the only alternative I will accept. The silence that followed was heavy. The hum of the refrigerator seemed to get louder. Clara stared at me. She was running through her own script. Usually this was the part where I apologized. This was the part where I said, "You're right, I'm just stressed. Tell me more." She was waiting for the validation. I didn't give it to her. I held the gaze. I watched the realization hit her. I wasn't playing the game. I had left the board. "I can't believe you," she said, finally, retreating to the victim stance. She grabbed her phone. "I'm going to call my sister. She actually cares about me." "Do that," I said. I turned my back on her. I walked down the hall to the bedroom. I closed the door. I didn't slam it. I just clicked it shut. I stood in the bedroom. It smelled like her perfume, something floral and powdery. The bed was unmade, a tangle of sheets. I looked at the room. I looked at the logistics of my life here. The dresser on the left was mine. The closet was split 70-30 in her favor. The photos on the mirror were of us, mostly her, taken at weddings and parties where I was the prop, the man in the suit holding the drink. I wasn't going to sleep. I grabbed my duffel bag from the top shelf of the closet. I started to pack. I moved efficiently. 2 pairs of jeans, 3 shirts, underwear, socks, my toiletries kit. I took the spare charger from the nightstand. I took my laptop. I paused at the bookshelf. I took the 3 books that actually mattered to me, manuals on structural engineering and a copy of Meditations. The rest, the paperback thrillers, the decorative vases, were hers. I was doing the math as I packed. Rent is due on the 1st. I'd pay my share for next month to avoid legal exposure, but I would serve notice to the landlord tomorrow. The lease had a break clause if one tenant left, provided a fee was paid. I would pay the fee. It was cheaper than the emotional tax of staying. Utility bills were in my name. I would transfer them to her or cancel them in 30 days. Streaming services. I pulled out my phone and opened the banking app. I canceled the Netflix, the Hulu, and the Spotify family plan. Effective immediately. Petty? Maybe. But I was trimming the fat. I was closing accounts that no longer yielded a return on investment. I zipped the bag. I walked back out into the hall. Clara was in the kitchen now, phone pressed to her ear. She was crying. It was a performance cry, loud, gasping, designed to be overheard. He's being psychotic, Jess. He literally told me to shut up. He called me a child. I'm scared to even be here. She saw me come out with the bag. She lowered the phone. The crying stopped instantly. Her eyes went wide. What are you doing? I walked to the door. I put my boots on, lacing them tight. Michael. She stepped toward me. The aggression was gone, replaced by a sudden, jagged panic. Where are you going? I'm going to the hospital, I said. With a bag. Yes. Are you coming back? I stood up. I grabbed my coat. No, I said. What? She laughed, a nervous, fractured sound. Michael, stop. You're overreacting. You're just tired. Put the bag down. Let's talk. We're done talking, I said. I explained the situation. You chose to ignore it. You prioritized your ego over my crisis. That gave me all the data I needed. Data? Who talks like that? I'm your girlfriend, not a spreadsheet. You are my girlfriend, I corrected. Now, you're a roommate I'm moving out on. You can't just leave. We have a lease. We have a life. I'll cover my share of the rent for 30 days. You have that time to find a roommate or move. I'll email the landlord in the morning. Michael, please. She dropped the phone. She rushed at me, grabbing my arm. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry I talked about the cashier. I'm sorry. Just stay. You're scaring me. I looked down at her hand on my arm. It felt like a weight. I'm not scaring you, I said calmly. I'm leaving you. There's a difference. I pulled my arm away. Why? She pleaded. Because of a grocery store story? That's insane. No, I said. Because when I told you I was drowning, you asked me to look at your paper cut. I opened the door. Michael. I walked out. I closed the door. I heard her scream my name through the wood, but I didn't stop. I walked down the 3 flights of stairs. The night air was bitingly cold. It felt clean. It felt like oxygen. I threw the bag into the passenger seat of the car. I got in. I checked my phone. One missed text from Dr. Eris. BP stabilizing slightly. Still critical. I took a breath. I had cut the dead weight. The noise was gone. The distraction was eliminated. I put the car in reverse. As I pulled out of the complex, I didn't look back at the window. I looked at the road. I was going back to the ICU. I was going to sit in that chair. I was going to watch the monitor. And for the first time in 2 years, I was going to do it without checking my phone to see if I was in trouble for not being somewhere else. I was a man explaining a complicated situation to myself. And for the first time, the logic held up. The engine hummed. I drove toward the lights of the city, toward the difficult, necessary work of saying goodbye to a man who, unlike Clara, had never asked for more than I could give. Thank you for listening. That brings today's story to a close. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. See you next time.